Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit more about decimals and specifically the thousandths place. So, when we modeled before looking at decimals with blocks, we used this as the 1. But you should also remember that the 1 can change based on whatever we're talking about. So, today we're going to change a little bit. When we go to thousandths, we're going to think of this guy as the 1. So, we now have 4 types of blocks here. We have this little guy here, we have a long, we have a flat, then we have a cube. So for the rest of today, I want you to think of this as the 1. And hopefully what you recognize is it takes 10 of these to make one of these, 10 of these to make one of these, and then it actually takes 10 of these to make one of these. So what I am going to do is I'm going to write down a decimal, and what I would like you to do is just draw a picture in your notes of how you think you would represent this decimal with blocks. Okay? So you would draw just a little square for one of these, you would draw a nice stick for one of those, a square for one of these, and then draw a cube for one of those. So the number that I want you to try to represent is this one right here, 0.235. So go ahead and pause and see if you can represent that with a picture. Alright, well, that may have been kind of difficult for some of you, and that's okay, so let's kind of talk through it. So we have this number here. We know this is the tenths place, so we think about which of those blocks would it take 10 to make up the 1 that we have here, because we don't have anything in the ones place, so we shouldn't have any full cubes. The thing that it takes 10 of to make this is this one right here, so we should have 1, 2 of those. Okay? Then we move over and we know this is something called the hundredths place. So which of these would it take 100 of them to make a full cube? And that should be this one right here. So we should have 1, 2, 3 of those. And then we think, okay, this is the thousandths place. So which of those cubes would it take 1,000 of them to make up this big cube right here? Well, that would be these little guys here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, let's go ahead and try one more of those. So again, we're using this big guy as the 1. So let me give you one more decimal to try that out. Let's do maybe try this decimal right here, 1.034. So go ahead and pause. Try to draw a picture using those 4 options of different kinds of blocks and see if you can represent this decimal with those blocks. Alright, when we're looking at this, we start over here. We have a 1 in the ones place. Well, the 1 is represented by this big cube here, so we need one of those guys. We don't have any of the things that represent a tenth. So just for our knowledge, this would have been what would go there, but we need 0 of them, so we're not going to put anything there. We need 3 of whatever it would take to make up 100, or what it would take 100 of to make this. So that's going to be these guys right here. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to need 4 of whatever it would take 1,000 of to make one of those big guys. So we need 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want you to pause for just a moment, just reflect on that and see if you're feeling okay about it. If not, then I want you to go through and watch again and see if it makes sense. Alright, now we're going to work a little bit on how to read decimals. A little bit of practice with this will make our lives a little bit easier. So let's review first a number that we should know how to read, this one up here at the top. So remember, what we're going to do is we're going to break it up by different periods. So we're kind of looking at punctuation, very much like when we're reading, how we should pause at commas, we should pause at periods, take a little break. It's kind of similar in math. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for some sort of punctuation. So here's a comma. You read what the whole number that's in front of it, and then that punctuation will tell you to use a place value name. So we would read this as 129,456. Okay? It's kind of the same thing here, except with a decimal, you're going to use the place value name of whatever the last number's place value is. So I look at this, I see decimal, tenths, hundredths. Okay, so then I'm just going to read the number that I see. I see 59, and then I say hundredths. So 59 hundredths. Okay, going down to this one, there's nothing in front of the decimal, it's just a 0. So we can come over here, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I'm going to name this by thousandths. So I read what I see, 112 thousandths. We have one more down here at the bottom. Notice that there is something in front of the decimal now. So we're going to read that, and whenever we see that decimal, then we're going to use the word and. So we'd say this as 2 and 106 thousandths. 2 and 106 thousandths. Now let's say that there's something a little bit bigger in front of it. Say there's something like, I don't know, something like this. Well, we're going to read what we see in front. 129 and 56 thousandths. Okay, because this goes all the way out to the thousandths place. So 129 and 56 thousandths. I want you to just pause here and just reflect on that for just a moment. Alright, I want you to practice reading these decimals, so what I would like you to do is pause the video while you can still see these and say them out loud, read them, and then unpause it and I will read them out loud so you can check if you got it right. Okay, here's the correct way to read these. We would read this one as 581 thousandths. This one would be 72 thousandths. This would be 15 and 24 thousandths. 34 and 9 hundredths. This would just be 6 thousandths. 3 and 703 thousandths. 3 tenths. 8 and 6 tenths. Now we're going to change it up just a little bit. I'm going to read you a number, and I want you to write down what decimal you think what I say would look like when you write it out in standard form. So we're going to do 3 of them. So get your paper and pencil ready. First one is 367 thousandths. The second one is 9 and 634 thousandths. And the third one is 5 and 79 hundredths. So go ahead and pause, and I'll show the answers in just a moment. Here is what you should have written down for the 367 thousandths, 9 and 634 thousandths, 5 and 79 hundredths. Go ahead and write how you are feeling about this skill.